Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. Along with me today, the one and only Scott Reynolds, also from pewterreport.com. And Scott, we've got Bucs training camp is exactly 4 days away. Tom Brady's favorite down. 4. Yeah. Not more than Brady thinks, but exactly 4 days away until Bucs training camp. We are looking forward to it. We've got the last of our positional preview series today, looking at linebackers, corners, and safeties. And it's going to be fun trying to break down where the depth is at these positions, because we know a lot of the starters, we'll touch on them briefly and then talk about them. But a lot of the focus of this is going to be on the depth and what we'll see from the position groups as they get deep into training camp, especially the preseason games.
John, I like the new Tom Brady. I'm just going to say it. I mean, maybe it's just, he's finally feeling his way around Tampa. Maybe he's comfortable now, that he's won a Super Bowl ring with the Buccaneers, Super Bowl MVP, broke and shattered the single season touchdown record in Tampa with 40 passing touchdowns, tacked on 3 more, just, because he's 43. So let's just make it even number, 43 touchdowns for a 43-year-old quarterback. But it's just nice, come out of a shell like this. That was it's cool to see Brady really kind of liven up. And
it is.
I mean, let's face it. And now maybe he goes back into season mode, but it's like some of those Zoom calls, man, last year, they were kind of dry. It was like standard cut and dry answers from Brady, very generic.
Yes.
Very short, right? He keeps things very brief. I mean, his answers are long. But he should be like a U.S. senator, because he will go filibuster like a 4 response. And then it's like, by the time he's done answering 4 questions, he's done. Like, well, that's my time. We're done. So,
right. Yeah. It's hilarious to go through those Zooms with him in the season, because everybody's like, do we get Brady today? Do we get Brady today? We're like,
well, 4 of us do.
Like,
right?
Come on. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, he never says anything, and he takes for all the questions, the time to answer and say nothing. He's got that down pat. Mike Tomlin was, Bucs fans know him. Probably not as what he sounds like as a head coach as much, but he does the exact same thing in Pittsburgh.
Very generic. Yeah. I mean, I remember asking Mike Tomlin, this is back when he was a defensive backs coach, right? Because he started this back in Tampa when he was just a position coach. So he would sit there and say, I would ask him, so I'm doing a story on Brian Kelly, Mike, and I want to kind of talk about Brian's toughness, specifically how he would jam receivers at the line of scrimmage, and if you can just kind of elaborate on that. Well, Brian's like all of our corners, man. All of our guys are tough and resilient. But I'm looking specifically for a quote about Brian. Specifically, Brian.
Just compliment your own
number
player,
25, man. Right? The guy that wears 25. How he, unlike maybe some of the other guys, is really good at just jamming guys and rerouting them in the Tampa 2.
Right. No, for sure. It's
we like BK. BK, Rondé.
Yes.
Dwight, Smitty, all these guys are really good. It's just the way he was. He was very generic. And so I like to see Tom with the zingers, Aaron Rodgers, Tom on the barbershop show that's escaping my name.
The shop.
Shop. It's like, I like this guy. Let's see more of him as the season comes to play.
Toby says, rest in peace, Scott's voice. Your voice is coming back, Scott. It sounded stronger and stronger.
It's about 70%. So, there will be times when it sounds like I'm going through puberty again. It was so much fun the first time around as a teenager. I'm going through, maybe my voice is going through a midlife crisis at age 49, but it is what it is. I couldn't talk at all in June. So this is much better. And I'm better now than I was at the beginning of July.
And you get to drink Celsius again, right? Which is probably the best part.
Gosh, John. I had the tropical vibe again today. This is the top 5 flavor for me. It's rocketing up there. And you know what? Here's the thing too. It's like I'm not going to bore everybody with my acid reflux issues that caused all this problem, but I finally changed my diet. But now I can finally get back to eating some of these tasty, delicious. This is the salted caramel peanut butter crunch fast bar.
I've got the cookies and cream here,
and it's like, John, I would see you. Munch these things live on their Pewter Report podcast from our friends at Celsius with this amazing fast energy bar. And the thing is I was so jealous because, like you, they shipped me a case of these, and like I really literally couldn't eat any of them in June because of dietary restrictions. And now I'm just mowing through these things. You talked about the cookies and cream. That was the first one that I tried. I loved it. This is just as good. They have 2 flavors. They're both home runs. Bucs fans, Pewter Report readers, listeners, listen. This stuff is legit. If you like the taste of Celsius, and who doesn't, because it's a phenomenal tasting beverage, these protein bars, and I'm not going to name names, but we've all tried some that taste like sawdust or cardboard. These taste like candy bars, and they're good for you. So I highly recommend them.
Right, absolutely. And so Celsius.com, you can go to or check out the banner ads, and pewterreport.com, find out where that stuff is near you, or just order them online. You can do that too. And get yourself, there's a variety pack. I put the link in the YouTube description of this episode down below, so you can click on that. You can get yourself variety pack, try some of the white chocolate cookies and cream and the salted caramel one. So you get a little bit of both worlds over with the protein bars. All right, Scott, we got a lot to talk about on this show, and we're going to start with talking about my top 10. I've recently released my top 10 Buccaneers, my top 10 current Buccaneers. You proved it and published it for me, and you said, nice list. You said some nice things. I won't lie and say you did say some nice things. But you said I probably would have done the order a little bit differently. So I'm curious, as some people, hopefully most, have seen my last Bucs briefing column, and they've seen my top 10 Bucs ranked in order. What were the biggest things that jumped out to you as you saw that top 10 and kind of wondered, wow, like this is something totally different than what I would do?
Yeah, well, it's been a busy week. I've not really had time to think about this. I've read your 53, all the different players that you've had in your rankings. And so the top 10, I think, God, everyone's going to think I'm an Antonio Brown hater, but I'm not. I like AB, but it's just that you've got the guy that's probably going to end up being the 3rd wide receiver on this team as the number 10 player on the team. Now, I know that the Bucs are a pass-first offense, right? I mean, when you've got the greatest quarterback of all time, when you've got the quarterback whisperer as the architect of the offense, and a former quarterback himself and Byron Leftwich as the play caller, like this is going to be a passing offense. And I get that. Brady's numbers last year, 2nd highest all-time in terms of passing yards, over 4,000 yards, only behind Jameis Winston in terms of passing yards. And I wouldn't be shocked. Listen, I wouldn't be shocked if Brady threw for 5,000 this year, just because he's got a year's worth of chemistry, and he's got the offense down now. I think they're going to pick up where they left off. I just really do. But the thing is, you've got 3 receivers in the top 10. So I think you can make a case for it. I wouldn't necessarily put Brown in there. You've got Godwin number 1, number 2 behind Brady, but number 1 in terms of the top receiver over Mike Evans.
Yes.
I saw your show this summer where you talked about that. I read your column. I understand your reasoning, and listen, it's not far-fetched because just 2 years ago when Godwin was a little bit healthier, I mean, he missed, I think, the last 3 games of the season with the hamstring injury. Evans missed I want to say 4 games, the last 4 games with his hamstring injury.
Yeah.
But still, that was a Pro Bowl season for Godwin. 1,000 yards. He led the team in catches, touchdowns, and receiving yards. And both he and Evans made the Pro Bowl. And I think that's what the Bucs are envisioning this year. And I think that's why they wanted to wait to see, okay, is Chris Godwin a 1,000-yard receiver, or is he an 800-yard receiver?
Hey, he was already a 1,000-yard receiver. He was a 1,300-yard receiver.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, and I guess that's the thing too. More specifically, is that number over 1,000? Is it closer to 13, or is it 1,000, or is it 800? Because that's going to be determining what the actual market value is. Because he's kind of been all over the place in terms of the yardage, and I think the Buccaneers just want to see, like, okay, going forward, we love Chris. He's a great fit for this scheme. He plays the most important position, and I understand that's your reasoning for putting him ahead of Mike Evans. It's just I like Mike. You know, he's a 1,000-yard guy. He's a big-bodied receiver. The dude's tough as nails. I like Chris too, but just as an old timer, it's like, Mike's been around since 2014.
That's right.
And so it's hard for me just psychologically eventually to say that Chris is better than Mike. Because I probably won't, but I understand your reasoning. But I think the biggest sticking point I had was, and just in case you haven't read that article, Antonio Brown, number 10.
I thought that one was going to be one, yeah.
Yeah, Shaq Barrett, number 9.
You'd have him higher or lower, Shaq?
I think that's probably about right for Shaq. He's definitely in the top 10. Ryan Jensen, 8. I'm a big Jensen guy. I think it all starts up front with him. I agree with you there. Vita Vea at 7. I can see the logic there. Wirfs at 6. Marpet at 5. Levante at 4. I'm a Levante guy. I think I'd have Levante probably outside the top 5.
Wow. So who's the number 1 defensive player on the team if it's not Levante?
That's a great question.
I mean, it could be Vea, but 5 games last year and then 2 in the playoffs.
But
it's hard to put him higher.
It is.
But Marpet and Jensen, you could have a top 5 that's all offense too.
Yeah, for real. It kind of goes back to what I was talking about when I put Warren Sapp at number 1, and just the reasoning there. It's like, okay, out of all of these great Buccaneers, if you're drafting them in their prime, who's the number 1 draft pick, right? Who's that guy going to be? And I think that's what gave Warren the edge over Derek Brooks, who's the more decorated Buccaneer, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think we lost Scott. You got disconnected from the pod. John asked a great question here. How do you think Godwin would fare against number 1 cornerbacks? We've talked about this a little bit on the show. This is one of the things that I said, if you're arguing for Mike Evans, it's probably the biggest talking point for Mike Evans is that you can say Mike Evans goes against number 1 cornerbacks. Godwin does not. And so that's the best argument for Mike Evans that you could make. Sorry, Scott, we lost you for a second, but John was just saying, how do you think Godwin would fare against number 1 cornerbacks? And that's the thing. If you're arguing for Mike Evans, I think that's the best piece of evidence for him because we really don't know how Godwin would do against number 1 cornerbacks. We have not seen that.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's right. So you asked about the defensive players. Who am I going to draft first? I would draft a younger Levante David as the first guy, right? From the defense. He's 31. Yeah. I think Devin at this point is a more dynamic player.
If you were drafting them.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. I would probably draft Vita Vea just because he's a unicorn, right? And the whole pressure package and the run defense starts up front with him.
Yeah.
I can probably find edge rushers, maybe not as good, but like in the same vein as a JPP or Shaq. Devin, I think, is on the way to becoming a bit of a unicorn. I think Levante was that Derek Brooks type in his prime, and I think Levante is still on the cusp of his prime. I think with Levante and every fast linebacker, happened to Derek Brooks too. There's 1 year where it just you fall off a cliff because you lose your wheels, you lose your speed, and hopefully it's not for a couple more years with Levante. But
I don't think it will be. But you're right. Like the decline is still going to happen with him. So yeah, tough to totally make a top 10 that pleases everybody for sure. But it was interesting to me. One of the interesting things in doing the exercise was thinking about guys where they're at in their careers and trying to I was trying to differentiate value from just being good at your position. Like I think Carlton Davis is really good and his value is really, really, really good because of what he gives you in terms of ability to play man coverage against number 1s and follow them all over the field. That's not something a lot of teams have. But I would also say that there was a handful of guys probably better than him on the team. So he was just outside my top 10, even though I think the case could be made he's their MVP too. So it's interesting to think about things like value versus how good you are at your specific role and try to quantify all that in a ranking. So it was fun stuff. Let's move ahead to the previews and the training camp battles. We've already had some questions about the cornerback spot for this team. So let's just start there so we can give the people what they want. Now, the cornerback spot on this team, we know the top 3 guys, right? Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jamel Dean. We can talk about Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean being sort of question marks as we enter the season, not whether they'll start or not, but whether they'll be good or not, whether they're long-term answers at those positions or not. We don't know that yet. We're a couple of years in and we don't know it yet. So we'll find that out hopefully about those guys. Right. But the other guy, Ross Cockrell, he's locked in, right? He's the number 4 guy, no question about it. It's after that really that it gets interesting, right? There's a ton of names, not a lot of definitely no proven play defensively, hardly any, I'll say. Yeah, you've got to just give people the list so they have all the names in their head. Herb Miller, our favorite, right? Against the Lions, came up with a pick. Herb, let's go. Yeah. Antonio Hamilton from the Chiefs. He played in every game last year, I believe. Special teams ace has the most experience of anybody, I think, on special teams out of these guys. He's probably another favorite to maybe compete for that fifth spot. Chris Wilcox, who's the 7th rounder, has got to be in the mix, right, for that fifth corner spot, just based on the fact that he's a recent draft pick. But he was about 6 picks from being Mr. Relevant in the draft too. So it's not like they invested a great, 4th or 5th in him. Cameron Kinley is kind of what nobody would have thought of him as kind of being able to, it would have been those 3, probably Wilcox, Herb Miller, and Antonio Hamilton. Now Kinley may have worked himself into that mix now that he's back and allowed by the military to kind of be able to pursue this. Now he's going to have the opportunity to compete for the 5th corner spot. And he really looked the best out of all of them, I thought, during the rookie minicamp portion of things. So you've got Nate Brooks and you've got D. Delaney to kind of round out that group. Those guys are the long shots. Brooks and Delaney both really struggled in rookie minicamp. So I would say that they're probably on the back burner. But right now, if I'm looking at this group, I'm saying let's start by talking about Herb Miller, because he's the guy, he's been around. All these other guys are kind of newbies. He's the one that's been around and has an opportunity to probably will start camp as the number 5 guy.
I think so too. And I think for Herb or whoever wins this 5th cornerback position really has a chance to maybe even be the 4th guy. I think Ross Cockrell makes this team as the 4th or the 5th just because of his veteran presence. But if one of these guys kind of takes a rocket ride through camp, and you know what? It's kind of funny because we kind of thought that might be Parnell Motley last year, right? I mean, he was a guy that was really coming on and making a lot of plays, and it just didn't work out as kind of that camp star. That he got some early buzz, but it didn't quite work out, and I think he's with the Broncos now. But I would not be surprised if Herb, I think he's the leader in the clubhouse in making this team as that 4th or 5th corner. You're going to give Ross Cockrell the edge, obviously, because of the playing time and experience. But I think, listen, that interception goes a long way. Like his stock really went up in the building because he got very limited reps during the season, and he made the most of those opportunities. Just like, and we're going to talk about him in a second, Mike Edwards. When the guy was on the field, good things happened, right? Outside of that muffed kickoff in week 1 against New Orleans, which kind of put him in the doghouse a little bit. But
kind of forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me.
I'm just saying, like, that was his start, but it's like, like, how did he end? I mean, every single time he was on the field, it's like there was a chance he was going to make a big play, a big fumble recovery, almost scooped and scored against the Saints in the big loss on Sunday Night Football. But, his interception was on Drew Brees' last throw in the Superdome in the playoff game. So this is a guy that is a playmaker, and I think Herb Miller showed a brief glimpse that he can kind of make plays in very limited opportunities. So obviously preseason is going to be huge for these guys. And I think it's going to come down to their performance in the preseason games, because there wasn't any preseason games last year. But the interesting thing, John, Herb Miller, 6'2", 190. The shortest corner they have in this team is D. Delaney at 5'11", 200. Antonio Hamilton, 6 foot 188. Cameron Kinley, 6'2", 204.
They've got it tight, Scott.
Chris Wilcox, 6'2", 193. So this is the biggest Bucs cornerback group I've ever seen in my 26 years covering this team.
Toby Valora says, why does it look like John is in his junior high bedroom with his Polaroid photo collages? That ceiling and door jams scream Yinzer country. I am up in Pennsylvania right now. This is not my house or my junior high bedroom or my photo collages or any of that. But I appreciate you pointing out that the ceiling looks like it is Yinzer country. I don't know what that means, but it definitely made me laugh, Toby. Thank you. But no, I kind of agree with you on Herb Miller, but I am going to be honest, Scott, my heart is wandering. I know we have had an affinity for Herb for quite a while, not really for any real reason other than the fact that his name's just awesome. Sounds like an 80-year-old dude named Herb, and he's just out here balling, getting an interception in like his 5 snaps in the season. Right. But I think it's also like I'm kind of drawn to Kinley, not just the story part of it. That's fun. I think he's made of the right stuff. I know the Bucs gravitate toward that. But he just played really well at rookie minicamp. And I've never watched him. Like I never studied his college tape. I'll just be honest. Like I haven't seen any of that stuff yet. I have for a lot of these other guys, but I don't know. To me, I'm really just kind of intrigued. He has the size that they want. I know he's not the fastest, most athletic dude in the world, but I think they might be able to live with that. I think he could be somebody that could be a good special teamer for this team. So Yeah, I am kind of gravitating toward Kinley right now. When it's funny, neither of us seem to be gravitating toward Wilcox, who's the draft pick out here. Shouldn't he be inside track guy to get this job, maybe along with Herb?
I think this is the year where, and listen, Jason Light doesn't have much of an ego. He really doesn't. But I think this is the year where they knew going into the draft, the day 3 draft picks were probably going to be practice squad guys. Yep. And so I don't think that they feel any compulsion to keep a 7th rounder, 6th rounder on this team just for that reason. I think that they're truly going to let the best players make the team, and the guys that don't, even if they're late day 3 guys, they'll be practice squad guys. And so I'm sure that's probably, the destiny for Wilcox, unless he just balls out and pulls off an upset. But the thing is, Herb Miller, I mean, he's got a year's worth of experience in this defense, and that is going to mean something.
Right. I agree that will probably mean something. And now Herb missed a lot of the minicamp portion of things because of an injury. He was not quite 100%. And then I think if I'm remembering right now, I don't have my notes in front of me. I think he was out there for the regular minicamp, wasn't he? The mandatory minicamp, or at least you were only there one day, I guess. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he was out there for that, participating at least as much as those guys were participating. Right. And there was such a steady rotation at corner between the two fields and the top guys, and we really don't have a good feel for how this is going to play out. I will say this though, one guy we haven't mentioned out of the 4 that we've talked, or the 3 that we've talked about, we haven't mentioned the 4th guy. Who I think is is Hamilton. I think logic would tell us Hamilton's got a pretty good chance to make this team.
Certainly with the special teams ability.
Right, exactly.
And that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to special teams too. We would be remiss if we didn't say that.
Right. It's probably just going to be special teams, right? I mean, Ryan Smith didn't even play a defensive snap last year. That's technically the guy they're probably replacing. So my question is to you, and then I'll come back to Hamilton with some numbers here in a second. But do you think, Scott, that there's any way that they could keep 6 cornerbacks on this team, or do you think it's going to be 5 all the way?
I think it's going to be 5, only because when you look at the safety positions, right? If you went with 6 corners, I think you're limited to 4 safeties then, really, because I think that the magic number is like 10, right, for the secondary, because you're going to need some linebackers, some tight ends to really play special teams too. Obviously, the safeties and corners play roles in special teams, but you still need some bigger bodies for special teams, kickoff, punt, coverage, units, those kind of things. So to me, I think they get away with 5 corners because Mike Edwards can also play nickel corner as well. He can play free safety, strong safety, nickel corner. And remember, he started in 2019 a game at the slot position over Sean Murphy-Bunting, I believe, at nickel corner. So I think that's I think that's their flex guy that can kind of do both, and I think that prevents them really from having 6 cornerbacks, because Mike Edwards is really that quasi 6th corner.
Yeah, for sure. And Winfield we saw play in the slot some too. So I mean, we've got guys that can play multiple positions in case something happened. For example, if Sean Murphy-Bunting were to go down, I bet we'd see wasn't it he that went down in the? Trying to remember now. No. It was he that went down in the Denver game, and Edwards went to free safety. Winfield went to the slot.
I believe that was the case. Yeah,
I can't remember, but anyway, I think Winfield playing in the slot. I mean, so there's answers outside of that. So I agree with you. 5 corners. Unless somebody were to go crazy on special teams, I don't think it's going to happen. Antonio Hamilton, again, just to circle back to him and kind of give people the full picture, he is really interesting because he's played last 2 seasons, 132 snaps defensively for the Giants, 138 for the Chiefs. So he's out there. He's participated enough defensively to kind of be useful in that regard, maybe if he need be. And also special teams wise, not that I've watched all his special team snaps. I have watched some of his special team snaps. I think he's pretty good in that regard. Last 4 years, he's graded in the green for Pro Football Focus. Last year, he played 390 snaps on special teams. The year before, 369. So he's a kind of all phases special teams guy. Plays on punt coverage, has for years, kick coverage, punt return, kick return. He does it all. He's on field goal block team. He's on all those teams. So he's a guy that's valuable and can step into a role right away. And when you're a team that kind of wants to win right now, I really think, as much as I like Herb, I think it's going to come down to he and Kinley would be my total guess. Kinley is just my wild card because I haven't seen him do any of this stuff. Hamilton's kind of the most proven guy. And I just think that they're going to value that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Unless somebody goes crazy.
Right.
Unless Herb goes crazy.
But then again, it's like Parnell Motley went crazy, right? And he didn't end up making the team. So
right. That's true.
Never know.
Maybe it doesn't even matter, Herb. Yeah. Sorry. Love you, buddy. Our Herb Bucs Time wants to know, are Herb Miller and Ross Cockrell good enough to pick up the slack if Carlton Davis misses a game? I mean, Herb, we just don't know enough. There's no reason for us to really go down that road right now. But Ross, I think for Ross Cockrell, I think last year why they wanted him back so badly, and you heard Bruce Arians bring him up like unprompted, like 4 times. That's how you know when you hear stuff like that. You know, coaches love a guy, and you know he's a lock. Like you don't have to like Bruce bringing him up, kind of unprompted, saying, "Man, that was a huge pickup for us by Jason Light," because
it was.
Yeah, Dean got banged up, and Murphy Bunting got banged up, and Carlton Davis got banged up, and Cockrell had to play in the slot some, and he had to play outside some, and he kind of has experience doing all that, and he's not like an amazing athlete or a big dude, but he just does everything pretty well. He's a good, solid tackler. He's smart. He's not out of position. He picks up the defense quickly. He can play with technique. He can find the football. He's just a good player. He's not necessarily ever going to be a desirable starter type of impact, but I definitely think he's a guy that helps the team. And as a fourth corner, I think that's a great luxury.
You're right. When you look at, guys like Leonard Fournette getting re-signed for 1 year, Kevin Minter getting re-signed for 1 year, and then those were two like important guys, right? I mean, Fournette was a starting running back for the postseason and the number 2 running back behind Rojo in the regular season. And Minter was the guy that stepped in for Devin White and was the special teams captain. And granted, he's a little bit longer in the tooth, but they signed 1 year deals. They brought Ross back for 2 years. That speaks volumes about how much they like him. Right? I think Nacho also got a 2 year deal as well, right? Another key valuable sub. So when they like you, they really like you, you're going to get a more than 1 year deal. When they like you, you're going to get a 1 year deal. So
now here's the trick with Cockrell before we move on to safeties. The tricky part is that you'd love your number 4 corner to play special teams. The Bucs tried to do it last year. Cockrell played the most special team snaps he'd ever played in his career. He wasn't.
How did it go, John? He
wasn't horrible, honestly. I don't think he was horrible, Scott. But part of the problem is he's just small and like kind of light, so he's not a very impact tackler.
Right.
And on those, I mean, you kind of need like long arms, like Sean Murphy Bunting. It helps him that on special teams that he's got these long arms and he can make tackles outside his frame. And your Cockrell just isn't really a hitter. He's not really a long arm guy that can tackle outside his frame. He's not a great athlete. Those are typically the type of guys, super physical guys. That's like the raw mold of what you want on special teams. So he is not, I mean, he has 26 punt coverage snaps in his entire career.
Yeah.
And he's been playing since 2014. 138 kick coverage snaps. 90 of those came last year, and the Bucs were like the worst kick coverage unit, literally in NFL history.
Wasn't all Ross's fault, but
no,
he was part of the problem,
right? But that's part of. And then we've talked about this too, Scott. Ross Cockrell was this team's up back in the Super Bowl, and that was the first time he had ever played that personal protector role in his career. Was in the Super Bowl. They asked him to do it, and it almost cost him a few times. And then he did make one nice block on one punt.
Yeah.
And he was the personal – we might get in trouble. I don't know if we could say this, but he was the personal protector when they went out with punting at some point in minicamp. He was the guy like lined up there. So I have no idea if that's going to be his role this season or if they're trying to find a spot for him. But it's pretty interesting to me that he's going to have to – they need that fifth guy corner to be a stud on special teams, and that's why I think it bodes well for Antonio Hamilton to be out there.
I was going to say too, Josh brings up a good point. Cockrell's got the most career starts out of all the cornerbacks in the team. And so, it's like you look at Carlton Davis entering year 4 now in the contract year. He's obviously a seasoned guy, but you look at Cockrell and he does have that kind of been there, done that ability to even help some of these younger guys as they're not so young anymore, but the up and coming guys, the Sean Murphy Buntings, the Jamel Deans. And it's going to be really interesting to see because, the pie's only so big, and Carlton's going to have the first crack at cashing in. If he has a really good year, if he's a shutdown corner, 4 or 5 interceptions this year again, he's going to make starting quarterback, not even starting cornerback, like CB1 type money. Yeah, like he's going to be an upper echelon paid cornerback. There's going to be a differentiation of pay, right, between Carlton and then Sean Murphy Bunting and Jamel Dean. And then logic tells you that they're going to have enough money to really pay Sean Murphy Bunting or Jamel Dean kind of that CB2 money eventually, right? So they have about 2 years to kind of separate themselves. I don't think you're going to see all three of these cornerbacks on the team 3 years from now.
Yeah, that would be pretty unlikely, and it could be just one. It could be just Carlton. We'll see how things develop for sure.
Right.
One last note on Cockrell. This is a perfectly described. So I think he allowed 16 catches on 22 targets this past season, but only 119 yards total. That's only 7.4 yards per reception. So for a small guy, he tackled the catch really well, prevented any type of big plays. He's going to
attack the yak, that's for sure. No yak on this guy.
Yeah, he's just a solid player, I think. Enjoy Cockrell and glad he'll be back in the fold. Let's jump over to the safety position. But before we do, Scott, I got to let people know about where the goods really are at over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest place to play fantasy football for big cash prizes. On Underdog Fantasy, you just draft. No need to worry about waivers, lineups, or injuries. Underdog handles it all for you. Go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app, draft a season-long best ball team, and that's it. No in-season management. They're going to give you $25 when you sign up so you can take a free shot at a $1 million grand prize in their fantasy football tournament. That's right. You can get a free $25 in bonus cash on Underdog Fantasy if you use that promo code PEWTER, PEWTER, when you make your first deposit. I love Underdog because it's just so easy to use. Go to underdogfantasy.com, join a league, draft a team, and that's it. You're good for the season. Go over to underdogfantasy.com, the App Store, the Google Play Store, sign up with that promo code PEWTER, PEWTER, and get a free $25 in bonus cash. Look, Underdog Fantasy is running some best ball leagues right now that are awesome. You draft, and then you just leave it for the season. You don't have to do in-season roster management or remember to check the waiver wire or anything like that. Your team, you draft them, and they just pull your best scores every week. There's no agonizing over who to start each week. No, you get the benefit of the team that you drafted. So if you killed the draft, you'll kill the league. I love that strategy. I love what the best ball leagues are about because I'm a big draft guy, but then when it comes to all the luck in season and all that kind of stuff and who got to the waiver wire first in week one, for guys that are obviously going to start, that kind of stuff, you don't have to worry about it anymore. So check out Underdog Fantasy. It's really good stuff. And I think you'll have a lot of fun playing in those leagues. And Pewter Report's going to have some leagues going up too in the Underdog Fantasy realm that you might have the opportunity to join as well. Okay, Scott, we got to talk about safeties. The first three, again, set in stone, right? Antoine Winfield, Jordan Whitehead, Mike Edwards. Here's my question to you, and we'll just go quickly through the starters here. I only have one question. How do you get Mike Edwards on the field more this season, and what happens to the other safeties if you can do it?
Boy, that's great. If I'm Todd Bowles, I'm revisiting that John Ledyard article about ways to get Mike Edwards on the field. I'm not listening. Not that Bowles needs any help, right? He's a defensive mastermind. I'm going to give him all the credit in the world. It's just that Whitehead is in a contract year. And listen, he's a starter, and you count on him for making plays like that play against Green Bay, right? Where he forced the fumble, big scoop by Devin White led to the touchdown. Really helped put that game a little bit out of reach there in the second half for the Bucs. Packers made a little bit of a comeback, but that touchdown, pass to I think it was Cam Brate right afterwards. That really kind of created more separation. That was right on the heels of that Scotty Miller touchdown before halftime. So those are the type of plays that Whitehead can make. I think he's better closer to the line of scrimmage. He's a physical guy against the run, throws his body around. He's fearless. He's everything you want.
Yeah.
In this style of defense, it's hard to take him off the field. But when you look at the turnover ability of a guy like Mike Edwards, he's a bit of a ball magnet. He just reminds me a little bit of Rondé Barber, just kind of right place, right time, always kind of puts himself in position to make those plays. And not the Whitehead doesn't. It's just they're kind of two different styles of play. I think Whitehead's more of a steady Eddie, and there's real value in that. But when you look at Mike Edwards in very limited playing time last year, 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups. If you remember he had the interception not just against the Packers off a tipped pass. They really helped turn the tide in that game. But the Broncos game too, the end zone interception, keep Denver out of it to keep the nail in the coffin for that Bucs win.
Yeah, and remember he had that interception against the Raiders that was taken away by a penalty.
That's right.
Where it was like a defensive offside or something.
Yep. So he had a fumble recovery, 31 yards against the Saints in that Sunday night game. So he's just kind of a splashy kind of guy in terms of the plays that he can make. And he got he played in 15 games, played certainly a lot more in 2019. Right, he had 45 tackles, 1 sack, a fumble recovery, 6 pass breakups. And in very few instances, right, last year, I mean, the guy finished with 11 tackles. But when you look at the splash plays, the 2 interceptions, the fumble recovery, 5 pass breakups in such a limited number of snaps, I think Bowles has got to find a way to get him on the field, even if you use more 3 safety packages. There's just some value maybe going to more dime against teams that are really going to chuck the ball down the field and go 4 wide receivers.
Yeah, it is one of the big challenges for this staff, I'm sure, is figuring out how to get him on the field. And let me just give you some numbers to reinforce what you said. The big thing that was mentioned to us last year before training camp was he's got to clean up the missed tackles. Well, smaller sample size of snaps, cut in half, but his missed tackles cut in half too.
Right.
We didn't notice it as a problem all season long when we were watching him. We thought, it was impressive as a tackler. Yeah. Only targeted 18 times, but gave up just 7 catches for 56 yards. I mean, he was, again, like these are numbers from Pro Football Focus, but there was not a lot to complain about with Mike Edwards last season. Even when he was kind of out of position, he seemed to make up ground really quickly, really looked like a totally different player from his rookie year to me when I was watching him. I thought it was a huge change. And then if you look at his alignment, though, it gets tricky, right? 227 of his 320 snaps were at free safety, whereas a deep single high safety or 2 high safety, he did not play around the box very much at all. He didn't play in the slot very much at all last season. So it was a swing for him. It was a change for him. I think as a rookie, it was 100 snaps in the slot, 144 in the box, 349 at free safety. So he was all over the place. And really now this year, I felt like Todd Bowles kind of defined everybody's roles a little bit more. And as a result, Edwards and Whitehead played the best football of their young careers. Getting Whitehead off the field might not get Edwards on it unless Winfield takes Whitehead's spot and Edwards plays free safety. Then it gets into the conversation that I know we'll have during training camp, and it'll be one of the big things we talk about, I think, this whole month, or the whole month of August, Scott, is can Antoine Winfield do more than play free safety? We saw a little bit of it last year, a little bit in the slot. We know he can defend the run. I think he could definitely play in the box. We know he can blitz, right? He's terrific as a blitzer.
Yeah.
The question is, can he play in the slot? Can he be more of a versatile, strong safety than what Jordan Whitehead currently is? Then you might have the opportunity to play Mike Edwards more at free safety. Can he handle the bigger workload would be his question. But last year, out of 1,200 snaps, 868 of them for Winfield came at free safety. He was basically a single high free safety most of the season.
Yeah.
That is something they're going to have to figure out if they want to move him around more next year.
Yeah, I think, too, if you look at Winfield's numbers, right, he had 94 tackles as a rookie. He was the 3rd leading tackler on this team in the regular season.
As a rookie, free safety. So he's the deepest guy, and he was still that involved in the run defense. Pretty crazy.
Jordan Whitehead, by comparison, 74 tackles. So, I mean, here you've got a rookie, and Winfield had 20 more tackles. He had 3 sacks, right? I mean, they blitzed their safeties. That's a Todd Bowles staple, right, to blitz the safeties. He had 3. Whitehead had 2. And then you look at the 6 pass breakups, right? Whitehead had 4, 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles. Those came on the blitzes, a fumble recovery. This was a guy that was just an absolute playmaker, and he's got a really bright future, right? I mean, he's one of this team's young stars. Played like a 2nd round pick for sure. He's already earned that draft recognition in terms of his status as a player. I think the sky's the limit for this guy. And the problem is, if Edwards continues to make those splash plays, even in a limited fashion, as much as you like Jordan Whitehead, unless he comes back with a very reasonable offer to rejoin the team, maybe on a 1-year deal, you got to think that, reading the tea leaves, Mike Edwards replaces Whitehead as the safety, and both of those guys are interchangeable, right? The free and the strong. And I think that Winfield actually might play more strong safety if Whitehead moves on after this year, and Edwards then kind of becomes that center fielder. He's just a little bit, I think, more of a ball hawk than Winfield is. Winfield obviously playing close to the line of scrimmage with those blitzing capabilities, and the ability to force fumbles. it's exciting. But I would guess, if I had to, that Whitehead is probably moving on after this year. I think that the team just has higher priorities in terms of, re-signing Gronk, re-signing, Godwin to an extension, possibly re-signing JPP. That Whitehead probably is the odd man out on defense in terms of the starters, but doesn't mean he's not going to have a great year. Doesn't mean he can't come back. I mean, it's just that they're not going to pay a king's ransom to re-sign Jordan Whitehead.
Whitehead was terrific last season, I thought. And remember, entering the season, I was pretty critical of him. The way he played the year before, I thought he was maybe the worst defender the year before. And I don't take back that. I think that his 2019 season was rough. I did say I thought a lot of it was trying to ask too much of him.
Right.
The Bucs did such a better job of not asking him to do too much. He still lined up a lot of different places, but they didn't put him in really tough matchups. They didn't leave him on an island with Jared Cook a bunch. Like, they were smarter about how they deployed him this season, and he responded by doing really, really well with what they asked him to do.
Right.
I do think he's the type of player, because he's so good in the box and tough and physical. I do see him as the type of player that could be an impact dime backer type player. If they went to 3 safety looks, they really have exactly what you want, right? All 3 of these guys can move around a little bit. Whitehead, though, he's so good in the box. He beats blockers to spots. But I also think you could slide Winfield in there, and he could do some of that stuff. Mike Edwards could be in the free safety. He can move around. They have a lot of kind of chess pieces in their safeties room right now. They didn't really use them that way last year until the Chiefs game. The Chiefs game was the game where those guys spent more snaps on the field together in the Chiefs game than they did in any other game during the entire season.
Yeah.
So Bowles kind of like played that card last, and now that it's out there, I wonder if we see it a lot during the 2021 season, and the kind of impact it could have if they do use it.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like, credit again to Todd Bowles for just going with cover 2 and playing a lot of Tampa 2 and cover 2 against the Chiefs, because that was, that was a hell of an adjustment. And at the same time too, it's like he got the benefit of going to that, seeing how well it worked in the first game when they lost by 3 points. Because once he made those adjustments, I've said it before, Mahomes completed barely 100 yards worth of passes in the second half and 1 touchdown. So really kind of the stifling of Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense wasn't just from the first quarter of the Super Bowl. It started back right before the bye week in that first matchup against the Chiefs. So was it week 12? That second half was a brand new ball game. I mean, you give the Buccaneers the ball back and maybe 3 or 4 more minutes in that game, and I'm telling John, they beat the Chiefs in the regular season. They just ran out of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they couldn't get it together in the first half, and that's what eventually screwed them. But then they did have some bad breaks in that game and some things they needed to clean up, and they did, obviously. But yeah, this was a team, they knew how close they were. They made those kind of changes, and I just wonder if they keep making those kind of changes defensively
and
in
I
2021.
wonder what new wrinkles Todd Bowles has in store, because Devin White's another year older, Sean Murphy-Bunting's another year older. Vita Vea came back and continued his wrecking ball status as that push the pocket nose tackle guy.
Right.
I think Anthony Nelson, he's going to be under the gun and feeling a little heat with Joe Tryon. And what's Tryon going to do this year, right? It's just, hey, no pressure, Rook. Forget your first round status. We're just going to put you on the field for a couple plays and rush the passer. And I mean, he could thrive in that role. I could see Tryon getting 3, 4, 5, 6 sacks just as a designated pass rusher, a DPR guy. So another chess piece, John, for Todd Bowles to work with.
Right. And we got to talk about this 4th safety spot before we jump over to linebacker to wrap things up. But Lawrence White, Augie Contressa, those are probably the long shots. But then you've got Javon Hagan and Raven Green as the 2 guys really kind of thumping right now heads for that number 4 safety spot vacated by Buccaneer great Andrew Adams. Curtis Riley could have been that guy, but he got hurt in rookie minicamp. I don't think we've gotten necessarily an update on him since Bruce Arians said that it seemed like it could be serious, but he could have been a nice pickup.
Right. It was an Achilles injury. We'll see if it's partially torn, if the rest
strained or
has healed it. But yeah, I mean, when you look at Green, he's got the special teams experience, and he's kind of a thick guy too. He's a bit of a thumper.
Oh man, Raven Green is rocked up, dude.
yeah, he is.
We saw that at camp.
Yeah, he doesn't skip arm day or chest day, or lat day, or any day in the weight room. Really, he's a pretty well put together dude. But then Hagan is a guy that had some buzz from training camp last year, 6 foot 215. I don't believe that Raven Green is 5'11", 197. I just don't. I mean, he looks bigger than that.
He said he was 192, actually. They interviewed him, and they said, I'm actually down to 192, and I'm going to see how much weight I can lose here in this heat.
I'm not calling him a liar, but I don't believe him. He just,
maybe he just has zero body fat.
I was going to say, maybe the body fat index is just crazy low, but it's like he is so well put together, and he's physical, and he was kind of a vocal leader over there, I think, on field too, right? We were seeing him make some plays out there, and really kind of, he was a fourth-year guy, played up in Green Bay. He's got some experience. It's all going to come down to special teams, though, for this fourth safety spot, John. Mm-hmm. But, I think it's down to Hagan and Green. I think one of those two guys emerges.
Maybe you're onto something with Raven Green being a liar here. I don't want to slander this guy, but he got on in his interview. He talked about his weight, like you said.
Yeah.
Then he said, special teams he loves, he welcomes it. That's where he's cut his teeth. That's where he's made his impact in the NFL. Well, he hasn't really played very much special teams, so I don't know what he's talking about exactly. He played 111 snaps on special teams last year. That's probably about a fourth of the snaps that they had on special teams, Green Bay last year. I mean, he really wasn't on punt return team hardly at all. Punt coverage a little bit, kick coverage a little bit.
Yeah.
Kick return a little bit, but he wasn't no year in his career has he been like a big special teams contributor for them. And same thing in 2019, he played 18 special team snaps. And so I don't really know what he's talking about, but also Javon Hagan's not exactly experienced either. So that is going to be a very good battle in camp between those guys. I really think Curtis Riley, if he's healthy, Josh saying partially torn Achilles for him. I thought if he was healthy, maybe he could have been the guy.
Yeah,
I still lean Raven Green right now, but I think Javon Hagan is somebody he was stepping up, taking on some leadership roles. They liked him and they talked about him last year. He doesn't have the experience Green does. Defensively, Green was a dime backer for the Packers and played well in that role, was a blitzer, got home a few times, was very tough, physical, fits the Bucs mold. He was vocal in camp as well. Low key, that's going to be another really good matchup to watch because both those guys I think can play.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It's going to be fun to watch, and I think less stressful too, right? For the team, not having your starters back. I think the only starting job really up for grabs truly is the running back spot is going to be Rojo or Leonard. They'll figure that out. But some of these backup jobs, the fourth guy here, the fifth guy there.
Yeah.
It's fun, I think, for Buccaneer fans to enjoy the fact that you're walking in with the Super Bowl caliber roster with a team that the only team that's going to beat the Buccaneers this year, honestly, is themselves because they have the talent to beat every single team on their roster. And there's a couple payback games on there too.
Pat Mahomes could beat them. I just want to throw it out there.
Yeah,
he will, but I'm just saying that. But ordinarily, I agree with you. Yeah,
but he's not on the schedule right now.
Season,
right. So there's a couple payback games. The Rams are on the schedule. The Bears are on the schedule. The Saints obviously are on the schedule, right? There's some payback games there.
Giants are on the schedule. I know they didn't lose to them, but they played absolute, what?
Crap. Yeah, for sure. And listen, the Bucs are going to get everyone's best shot. Warren Sapp's right. It's like when you're the hunted, you're no longer the hunter. And it's like you got to have that hunter mentality, even though you're the hunted. So they're going to get everybody's best. At the same time, it's great, though, that you're returning all your firepower and you've got a very veteran, even though it's a young team, still a very veteran team, too. That guys that have now, listen, most of the guys have been there, done that now. They know what it takes, and they're just going to have to do it again.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Meet Chadbury says, off-topic question, what chance would you give the Bucs to have the best record in the league? Bucs Time says 50% chance. So it'll be the Bucs or an AFC team with the best record. I agree with Bucs Time on that it'll be the Bucs or an AFC team. Yeah. I wonder if because I have to look at everybody's schedule to know for sure, but I wonder if just because the AFC they're going to play more teams in the AFC and the AFC is better. If the Bucs probably have the best chance in the league to have the best record in the league in the regular season at least, and then the playoffs. Anything can happen, but I would give them a pretty I don't know what percentage exactly, but I would give them the better chance than anybody else in the league to have the best record in the league.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it's set up right now.
That's safe to say. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's jump to the linebacker position. There's not as much to talk about here. By the way, good point by Josh Allen that the Bucs could easily keep 5 safeties. I've kind of predicted that they will keep 5 safeties. Hagan and Green both could make it because Green can also play linebacker if they needed him to in a pinch. So allows you to maybe get 2 good special teams on there and make 3 linebackers active on game days. But linebacker, Devin White, Levante David, they're set in stone. Obviously, neither guy comes off the field. Kevin Minter is the 3rd linebacker. You'd expect that to continue. Joe Jones was picked up from Denver. Special teams ace, not like a Raven Green situation. Right. Joe Jones has been one of the better special teams linebackers in the league for as long as he's played, a couple years now. He was very good in that role in Denver. The media really like him as a person from Denver. I talked to some of them. They also thought he always had potential to maybe do a little bit more if Denver needed him to play defense and things like that. He's the other guy, 349 special team snaps last year.
That's right.
344 back in 2018. He's done a lot of special teams work for this team. And so he knows he plays all the phases. So he's not going to have to acclimate him to a lot of stuff. He's been a very good, strong contributor for them in that way. So I think those 4 make the team. I don't really have a take other than that, Scott. I'm KJ Britt. It's great. It's Grant Stewart. It's great. Take him late. You take guys that you think can help you on special teams late. I get it. Yeah. I think one or both maybe end up on the practice squad, but I don't think they're going to make the roster.
I agree. And, the only thing is listen, we talked about this before, like the wheels at some point in time for older guys, they just fall off, right? And linebacker, especially in this type of defense, because they're asked to do so much in coverage, they're asked to blitz, they're asked to play special teams if you're not a Devin White or a Levante David. I'm not saying Kevin Minter is not going to make the team, but he better show up and ready to go. And it's like, yes, he was the special teams captain last year. He's very well respected. There's a lot of trust there. He goes all the way back with Bruce Arians to Arizona, right? And Todd Bowles as well. So he's got a lot of experience. Kevin's done a great job with his body. Mm-hmm. He lost some weight coming to Tampa to become a faster guy to play on special teams. But we saw Dario Ogunbowale be the special teams captain one year and then not make the team the next. So that's not a guarantee that Minter is going to make the team.
Interesting.
So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying at some point in time, and if it's that year for Kevin Minter, where
I'm just going to clip you saying that little part and put it on social media.
Of course, yeah. Take me out of context, John. Way to go. Yeah. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like at some point in time, it's going to happen. And if it happens this year in camp for Kevin Minter, and that's going to have to be coupled with a Grant Stewart or a KJ Britt really stepping up and blowing the doors down, right? To do that, because Minter does have some real value. And listen, I know he gave up a touchdown, like the little route coming out of the backfield against the Washington football team. I think it was when he was on the field, or maybe it was the.
I think you're right. He also had the tip pass that Murphy Bunting intercepted in that game.
Exactly, yeah. So but listen, when Devin White wasn't in there, he's the guy they turn to. Right. I mean, there's that experience factor that he brings. So there's some real value. He's part of their goal line package at the linebacker position. But at some point, as you get up there, and I want to say Kevin's 31 now, I believe, just something to keep an eye on. I don't think it happens this year. I hope not for Kevin. He's a good guy.
But this may be Joe Jones, audition year. If you ball out next year, we get you back as the number 3 guy, and Minter retires or whatever at that point in time.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Interesting point. Something to think about for sure with Minter in the future. You know what else we got to think about, Scott?
What's that, John?
We got to think about the fact that summer is here, and we need to be ready to unveil our beach bod. You're in luck if you're thinking about doing that, Scott. Our friends at Manscaped just launched their 4th generation performance package, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Complement your summer bod with a trim from the leaders in male grooming. The sun is shining and calling your name, fellas. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for hot guy summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code PEWTER, PEWTER. Listen to what this Performance Package 4.0 has. Listen to this. The 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker Air and Nose Hair Trimmer. You've already talked about how great that is. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, the Crop Reviver Toner, Performance Boxer Briefs that are the most comfortable boxer briefs you will ever wear in your life, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. Travel bag's really nice. This trimmer, it's got all the latest technology with the blade. It's very comfortable. It's got a travel lock, so your battery's not running out. It's not buzzing in your backpack or whatever if you carry around ball trimmers in your backpack. I don't know. There's an LED spotlight that comes on that gives you that precise shave.
It's very important.
Very important.
Especially as you get older and your eyes don't work as well. Having that little spotlight helps, trust me.
Exactly. And it also is waterproof. So you really can't beat it. It's terrific stuff. The technology behind it's amazing. They're always coming out with new ones because they're always perfecting what they do. It's really, really good quality technology. And the ball deodorant, the crop reviver, can't say enough about them. And those boxers, man, they're unbelievable. So get 20% off plus free shipping with that promo code PEWTER, PEWTER at manscaped.com. There it is. Scott's holding it up. That's 20% off plus free shipping with that promo code PEWTER, PEWTER. Terrific stuff from our friends over at Manscaped. All right.
John,
Chad is alive.
I'm telling you, it's like
we had like 15 people join the show during that read.
Yeah. And the thing is I'm being completely honest. I would never have tried Manscaped before. I wouldn't, because it just seems like a little far-fetched. Why would I, need it, whatever. I didn't purchase it. They sent it to me for free. So if it's free, I'm going to use it. And I did, because I want to believe in what we're selling, right? I mean, that's part of it. There's not a product at pewterreport.com or a service that we don't use or believe in.
Yes,
that's a fact. It really is.
This is game changer. And I knew it was game changer before. And when you told me they were with us, I was like, let's go, baby.
I'm sold. And actually, I purchased 4 of these for others. So it's like that's how much I believe in it. I got mine free. Yeah, we're part of the free promo group. But I've purchased 4, myself to give away.
Oh, Mitch,
it's good stuff.
Mitch,
oh come on, Mitch,
buddy, Mitch,
come on, Mrs. Chimera, Mrs.
Mitch,
Chimera.
if you're on Twitter, Mrs. Chimera, come on, Mitch. I'm gonna send you one, Mitch.
Mrs. Chimera is gonna
hit me up on Twitter, Mitch. I'll set. Come on,
Mitch.
Exactly. Oh, Mitch. Mitch is gonna replace the Lenny segment.
Yeah.
Lenny, Mitch.
Yeah.
Come on, Mitch. All right.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's show. I'm excited about. See, Joel said about him wanting to try Celsius. I'm telling you, try it. Like everybody else that's on the show, they've talked about it. They weren't going to try it, and then boom, they tried it. It was awesome. Here we go. Tomorrow's show. I'm so geeked for tomorrow's show, Scott. We got a bunch. I don't know who all is going to be on the pod, but we're talking on the podcast tomorrow about if there was an expansion draft in the NFL. What's going on right now with the NHL? And I know Lightning fans are all up in arms because Yanni Gord might be the Lightning player that gets taken.
I know.
Well, we're going to take that same concept to the Bucs tomorrow on the show. Where if there's an expansion draft, who are the Bucs that you want to protect? There's going to be rules for it, who you have to protect. But we're coming to the show with our list of 10 Bucs that we've got to protect in the event of an expansion draft, factoring in a lot of different things. So it's going to be fun.
All right.
It's going to be an exciting show. And
Sounds
we'll probably fans, I want you to come with your list. Tell us who you want to protect if there was an expansion draft in the NFL. Because someday there probably will be again. And I don't know if it'll go down just like the NHL. It won't. Oh, they finalized the selections. Toby, please tell us, was it Yanni? Do we know? I don't know if it was Yanni.
Wait, for the protected list, you mean?
No, they finalized the selections for who the Kraken are taking. And so it's either Yanni or Killorn or.
Oh God,
I think it's Yanni, Scott.
Oh,
we're waiting. We're not reading. It was Yanni. He gone.
What? No,
Yanni's gone, Scott.
No.
Oh.
Oh, this is not good.
This is not good. Yanni is probably I think he's probably my favorite.
Yes,
he's one of my favorite players on the team.
Yeah, early word as Seattle Kraken were focused on one player from the Go Bolts. Oh my God,
not happy it was him. Anyway, we didn't want to end this pod on a sad note, but now we are joining us tomorrow on the pod.
Listen, in full disclosure, a part of the reason I had some setbacks in June from my voice was watching Lightning hockey, right?
And yelling
and going like Yanni, it's like, God.
So you don't have to worry about losing your voice anymore, Scott.
That's true.
Yanni is moving on. So sad, so upsetting. God. All right, tomorrow on the pod, we'll be breaking down the Bucs that we'd protect in the event of an NFL expansion draft. It's going to be fun stuff.
How many guys? How many guys are
10?
10.
You get to protect 10.
Right,
yep.
20% of the roster. They're close.
Yeah. And there's going to be some rules about who you don't have to protect. You don't have to protect rookies and things like that. So we'll talk about it.
All right.
It'll be fun.
Sounds fun.
Until then, thank you all for listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
Out.